So good afternoon to everybody and welcome to our webinar. ELTA is very happy to have you on board and very happy to have with us two very relevant legal tech entrepreneurs. On one hand, I'm going to introduce you to Philipp Kadelbach. He is the promoter of Flightright. I'm Pablo Rabanal from Spain. Philipp is from Germany. Sorry, I didn't say it. And Pablo Rabanal from Spain, who is the promoter of Reclamador. Let me give the word to Philipp and then to Pablo. They will introduce themselves, explaining who they are and why they decided to jump into the field of legal claims and become entrepreneurs in this sector. Philipp, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Maria. With pleasure. So my name is Philipp Kadelbach. I'm from Berlin, born and raised in Germany. 44 years old, 2 kids, and I had a very classical career as a lawyer. I studied law in Berlin and in South Africa, Cape Town. But I always tackled the issue of consumer law, so I always had an interest in consumer law issues, and then I opened up my own law practice in intellectual property law and IT law in Berlin, a little small boutique law firm. But I think I always had a very strong entrepreneurial interest. So I think I always felt I wanted to do something which is maybe a little different from just running a classical law firm. And yeah, basically I just came across the issue of passenger rights, and that was actually on a flight from Amsterdam back to Berlin, and I really had to be in time because it was a preparation meeting for my wedding, and the flight was heavily delayed, and I nearly missed my wedding preparation. And because that was such an issue, I really looked into the issue of air passenger rights, and I thought there's really hard to find a good solution for air passengers to enforce their right. And then the idea of setting up a legal tech company came up back in 2009, and that was kind of the starting point to become a legal tech entrepreneur. And I opened up a website in beginning of 2010 with a good friend, and we just said this is a test run, and it worked quite well. And we continued on that path of growth in legal tech since then, and that's basically my legal tech story, how I came in.
Okay, very interesting and very typical experience and reasons why somebody decide to set up his own company, and it has something in common with what Pablo experienced and why Pablo is in this business. Pablo, do you want to tell the audience who you are and why you are a legal tech entrepreneur, please?
Yes, well, I'm actually not a lawyer. I am an economist. I began working in investment banking, then I switched to film production. Then I switched again after 5 years in film production to the betting industry. I was the CEO of the retail arm of Bwin, the Austrian company. After that, I was looking for an idea to launch a new business, and I had an issue. It was not with an airline. It was with a telephone company, and I just couldn't solve it. I talked to consumer associations, and I realized there was really a big gap where technology could take place in handling small claims that a regular lawyer would not do, because they simply couldn't see that there was a margin if we include the use of technology. So we began Reclamador in 2012. So far, we have over 200,000 clients. We claim over 150 million euros, and So far, we have a success ratio of 98% of the claims we have solved, and we're claiming against airlines, we're claiming against banks, and we're claiming against insurance companies, and we're claiming medical negligences, and we're claiming labor negligences. And that's basically it. That's my background, and that's how I got into legal tech, because of a personal issue.
Very interesting and very impressive ratio of 99% of success. I'm extremely impressed with that. I'm not sure that many lawyers can say the same about the matters that they deal with. Let's start with some questions. We have in total just 8 questions. We are going to ask one after the other to the two speakers. They will give their view on each one. And when we are ready, we're going to give you the opportunity of posing your own questions. So you can also ask what you want to know, and then we will just end the session by probably around 8:30 or something like that. So the first question for the two of you, and I don't know if we want to follow all the time in the same order, or it's up to you. The first one who starts, okay? Is which are the main challenges that both your companies are facing at the moment? Are they legal challenges? Are they economic, financial challenges? Are they internal organizational challenges, human resources challenges, client challenges? Tell us, please.
So Pablo, you want to start, or shall I
No,
start?
be my guest, please.
Okay.
Be my guest. You go first.
Well, I'm first.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think legal tech has, or the business we do has quite some different challenges that all come together. I think if there's not much to do if you don't get cases, so it all starts with the marketing. You really have to find the clients, the air passengers in our case, out there, and we do a lot of online marketing, and I think we were like really pioneering this space back in 2010, starting from Germany, and since then expanded into I think 8 or 9 countries as of today. But by doing that, we have inspired a lot of competitors. So the online marketing game is really competitive, and we are really at a very, very high level. I cannot imagine any other area of legal tech where you have so much competition, and it's really about optimizing like your cost per order, your advertising costs. So that is really a challenge, and you really have to put a lot of intelligence and resources into that. But on the other hand, of course, because we are all working on a no-win, no fee basis, and you basically have to really pre-finance everything from the beginning, acquiring a case to operating the case through your system, and then if you have to enforce a claim in a certain legislation, you also have to finance all the litigation, including external lawyers, court fees, and so on. And that, depending on the legal system, takes time. So to really control and steer your revenue and have a very good prediction when certain revenues will come is really important, because this is always kind of a certain bet into the future. So this is to have a very good understanding and to have very good planning of what will happen in 6 months, or maybe in some jurisdiction 18, 24 months in the future is important. And then, of course, it's a litigation game in many areas, because if your opponent, like in our case, the airlines, do not freely pay, then we really have to go to court and enforce the claim. And that can be, and we do it in various different jurisdictions, and every jurisdiction have its own rules. You need your own civil procedure laws, your own lawyers. They have different rules, and to really have a very good intelligence, to have a very good procedure procedures to steer these things and to be efficient in what you do is extremely important. And I think it has really two dimensions, because we as Flightright, we do really the high stake litigation. So I think we currently have 5 cases running with the European Court of Justice. Also, we have more than I think 25,000 running cases at lower courts, and to really see the whole portfolio, to understand the portfolio, to see your risk, to see your chances. That is a challenge, and we feel that since we're doing this for 8 years now, it's we're really getting from year to year to a high level, and learning more and more, and getting better and better from year to year. That's the chance, but also the challenge. Yeah. But also, last point, be kind of differentiate yourself from the competition, and always kind of really lead your space that you're in, and try to do something better or more advanced or different than your competitors, all the Me Too companies that are out there.
Very impressive data, 25,000 open cases. We are really impressed. Okay, Pablo, do you want to tell us about the challenges that Reclamador is facing at the moment? Which are they?
Yeah, actually, they have a lot to do with some of the things Philip mentioned. I would say the main one is a cash flow issue, because we need to litigate in over 90% of the cases, and the Spanish legal system, compared to other legal systems in Europe, it's one of the worst. Actually, it's on average, it's taking us, for example, in bank claims, over 700 days to solve cases. So as of today, we have over 20 million euros in fees in court that we will get at some point. But at some point, and it just keeps on getting worse and worse. So we have a really strong cash flow issue, which has a lot to do with another challenge, which is the lack of awareness, the lack of focus of the administration, that they really need to include technology in the processes, in the access of consumers to defend their rights, as they're doing in many other different fields. Like, for example, the tax authorities, the Spanish tax authorities are a big example all over the world. We have people coming from China, from the US, because it works as a clockwork. But the civil courts and the mercantile court proceedings are really, really slow. And I also agree with Philip that there's a lot of competition in the arena, but I would say that our main challenge there is also the lack of awareness from the consumers that they can claim their rights. I believe there's enough market. For example, in airlines, just in Spain, we're talking about in the region of 2 million people that can claim a year, and over 90% of them are still unaware that they can claim their rights. So
90%, 90.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's
I can
really
confirm that the
surprising.
Spanish system is quite problematic in terms of speed and efficiency, Pablo.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Okay, so Spain has a lot to do. We will write about it and send this to the right people. Don't worry, Philippe and Pablo. Many
you.
things have to change in our country. Pablo, you mentioned one thing, and maybe I want you to put more emphasis on that. You said that a lot of claims, which are small claims, could be dealt in a different way and not through the traditional legal procedures that we have in this country. Which are the solutions that you would suggest for authorities to use in order to reduce the expenses and the delays, etc.?
Well, actually, there's one very simple thing. As I mentioned before, we need to litigate in over 90% of the cases. If I ask this question to Philip, how many cases you need to take to court, Philip, in Germany?
I wouldn't say it's the flip side of it, but it's definitely less than 30%.
They take
Wow.
less than. We need to take 90%, and they need to take less than 30%. Why is this happening? It's very simple. At the end, we are litigating against the same airlines, and it's just because of the court system. In Spain, every legal procedure below 2,000 euros, doesn't have any additional expense for an airline. So they just delay the payment, and they're using justice as a cash flow tool instead of justice as a service to the consumer. So it would be as simple as setting penalties for the ones that are breaking the law, on top of the compensations they have to pay for the airline regulation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
In Germany, which is the limit, Pablo mentioned 2,000 euros, no cost for the airline in Germany.
Well, in Germany, there is no limit in terms of. So first of all, there's a very clearly established loser pays principle in Germany. That means if you, as an airline, lose a case in court, you have to pay all court fees of your opponent. Also, if you use an advocate pre-court, you have to use these additional fees, and you have to pay interest and all these things. So on average, it's kind of, it doubles. If you lose in court, it doubles your cost, and that is that seems to work as an incentive to settle amicably, settle out of court, because in the long run, it will be much more expensive for you as a debtor. And we basically, what Pablo has described, we've seen exactly this when we started back in 2010, and we as a claims management company, we had to show and demonstrate our capability to first bring and operate all these huge number of cases into court proceedings, and then win these court proceedings. And then in the end, the airlines realize that it really is more expensive, and it's also a compliance issue, because if you see all the data and the airlines are losing, we can really clearly document and demonstrate that it's an intended breach of the consumer law. So that seems to was the trigger, I think, to that airlines, particularly German airlines, changed their mind and had a much fairer way dealing with these claims. And this is what we predict for other jurisdictions. But of course, the other systems shouldn't be kind of shouldn't favor an intended breach of the opponent, because there are no real the system doesn't create a real pain or financial pain on the side of the airline.
Okay. So let's jump into the second question. Although you have already partly answered, describe the level of competition at your market. Who are your main competitors, and what makes you different from them? So could you please describe deeply your competition?
So I think they are in the area of passenger rights compensation. I assume there are maybe 50 to 70 competitors European-wide who are offering this service. I think there in every country there maybe is a clear local champion, and then there are a few companies who are really operating this service European-wide. We are one of those European-wide players. AirHelp is one of these European-wide players. Fairplane is one of these European-wide players. And Pablo, I think you're more focused to Spain, right?
Yeah, we're only focused in Spain. Yeah.
So I think like the level of competition is more advanced, or is quite advanced within the companies that do that provide the service European-wide, mostly because they have a certain size, and they have a certain intelligence, because they have to manage various jurisdictions. And I think in terms of what is really differentiates the various players, I think some have a kind of premium advanced products. We, for instance, have a service which is called Flightright now, where you can get your money within 8 minutes. So there's, I think, only one other German company who's doing this. And of course, then there are some who are very strong in the business to consumer, B2C, and some have some partnerships where they're stronger in that area. So kind of the case inflow comes either more from consumers or more from some partners like online travel agencies, and some have both of these things. And then I think there are some companies, and we are amongst them, as I said, who really invest into shaping the industry on a political side nationally. Together with Pablo, we are also running the APRA, which is a European organization for air passenger rights advocates, and we're really trying to protect the legislation and work towards a more consumer-friendly legislation. And but also who shape the industry by really bringing cases up to higher courts where we see there are loopholes or things where we don't like certain legislation. We believe we have to bring this to a highest court to have a ruling on this. For instance, on the issue of strike, whether strike on the airline is an extraordinary circumstance that has been open and not clarified for the many 10,000 people who were stranded with TUI in late 2016, and we managed to bring this to the European Court of Justice, and the European Court of Justice ruled in favor of the consumer. This is something where you really have to make an investment, but I think some companies believe that it makes sense to do this investment because they can bring this back into their processes, and it will help them in the long run to differentiate. Yeah.
So very interesting that what you're doing, and do people know about it? Do people know, because somehow you are like doing some kind of corporate social responsibility? You're assuming tasks that maybe some consumer associations should be doing, but you as companies are doing that.
Yeah, we're both doing that. We're Philipp, ourselves, Flightright, also EU claim. We're doing that. Yeah, I don't know if I would call it social responsibility, but certainly we needed to get together and with a unique voice to counterpart what the European Commission and the European Council are proposing sometimes.
Okay. Okay. So for the market question, do you want to add something more, Pablo, or do you think that we are already set there?
I believe our main competitors in the Spanish market are the ones Philipp mentioned, Flightright and AirHelp. Flightright is doing a heavy advertising on TV. Philipp didn't warn me about that. And I would say that in the Spanish arena, at least, I believe we are the leaders in number of claims, and we are really close to the Spanish legal procedure system, which is very peculiar and very unique. And we're also offering a wide range of different claim services, and I guess that's what makes us different regarding these other players that are only focused in airlines. And there's also many traditional law firms claiming against banks and I guess insurance companies, etc. But I believe we are the only ones proposing a legal digital service with all that it implies. The last data we have is that we're responsible for 22% of the mercantile court proceedings in Spain, and we only have 45 lawyers in-house.
Wow. That's impressive data. Okay, next question.
Maria, yeah, you mentioned one point, and I feel this is it's very true. And I really wanted to ask Pablo, how do you feel from a Spanish perspective, if you feel the same? Because Maria, you said you sometimes feel that we step in as in where some consumer organization should have done certain things or should do some things, and we really feel that is a void where somebody really needs to go in and help consumers, because nobody else, and not the consumer organization, we're doing this. And it's a kind of a very interesting relationship at the moment, because we feel more and more that they regard us not as somebody who's kind of really clothing the gaps or stepping into the void, but rather they feel that like private consumer protection is something which shouldn't be done or kind of which they should have done, but since they are not doing it, they maybe feel nobody should do it. This is something which I tend to believe that, and I believe we have to really change this perception, because it from a consumer perspective, this is totally wrong, and it doesn't make sense. Because, where we there need to be a solution, and if the public body is not doing it, then we have to step in.
Yeah. So what you are saying is that, in your opinion, the public authorities are not assuming the responsibility they have in order to protect consumer rights, and therefore companies such as yours are jumping in and, let's say, leading this war, no, this fight to protect consumers.
Yeah, I think there's a shortage, and we are going in and filling the gap. Like we're like there was a deficiency in the system, and we kind of we fixed the problem in the legal system. But I think that the job that we're doing, which is very important, and kind of the number of people we're taking care for, I think we are in the area of 1 million now, is quite impressive. But I think we deserve more credit for this from the classical consumer agency, which I cannot see yet that we're getting this. And I think there really needs to we really need to rethink this whole thing, how classical consumer protection has worked in the past and how it should work in the future.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I just one thing. I fully agree with what Philipp is mentioning. But my experience, at least in Spain, we've approached some of the main consumer associations, and they've really used to a way of doing things, which is basically their business model is a subscription fee that they get every month. They're not used to litigating. My feeling is that they're seeing that companies like Flightright or Reclamador, and we're working on a no-win, no-fee basis, solving concrete cases with a strong commitment. And at the end, they see us as a threat to what they've been doing in the last years. But I agree with Philipp that there's a lot of work to do in that way for them to realize that we are all we're all fighting for the same, which is protecting consumers, and that's about it. Yeah.
Okay, before, when we were talking about competition, none of you mentioned consumer associations. In Spain, it's true, some associations are not charging a subscription, but others are charging a subscription, and they are getting into judicial claims, and they have a big staff of lawyers. So are they competitors? Are they not? What are the difference between them and you? And in Germany, I don't know how the market is, but maybe, Philipp, you can tell us if the same is happening.
In just to mention Spain, to be honest, I don't see them as competitors. Most of them are litigating, especially in bank claims, but with a very traditional model. They get into agreements with external law firms, and they pass the cases to external law firms. We have a team of 20 people working in a software solution to manage claims, and we can handle a really large volume of claims with way less resources. So at the end, what we are providing, it's a legal digital service, which is what is disrupting the market. And I believe to me, we're making things easier for the consumer. They can do everything through their laptop or through the mobile, and and they don't have to advance any fees or pay any subscription. So it's a complete different approach.
Yeah, I think it's quite the same. I think in Germany, consumer association, they do some landmark cases, like they take whatever a certain scenario and do one case against one player. But I'm quite convinced that no consumer association in Germany has ever enforced a compensation for a passenger. So they're not doing this kind of stuff, and they said, yeah. So this is what I said. There's a problem in the legal system, and we're closing it because they cannot do it. They cannot manage large volume of claims. They're not digitized, and so it's just there's a shortage in the system, and they cannot close that gap. And I think it's also not the traditional role to do these kind of things.
Okay. Okay, very interesting. Let's jump into technology. What kind of technology are you using? Pablo, you already mentioned something about what you are using. Could you tell us which software platforms are you using? More details. Are you developing yourself? Is own developed technology? Is it technology, cloud technology, Spanish? From which countries?
Yeah, of course, we're using cloud technology, and our technology framework is Django, and we're building our own case management software, which is at least as far as I'm concerned in Spain, the most productive one in terms of claims handled per lawyer. So it's all done in house. It's really core, and of course, we integrate with external solutions for already existing in the market to complete our value proposition, like Zendesk for example, for customer care. But what's really core for us, it's legal operations, and it's critical for us to have it in house and to develop it by ourselves.
So how many people are working in your team?
It's in our product team. There's like 20 people right now.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And outside, or is it all in-house, or are you
No,
also
all
hiring?
in house. All in house.
Okay.
It's all in house.
Okay. So you are not using the platforms that traditional suppliers offer, but your own.
Mm-hmm.
And for
From
information, but
from the very beginning.
Okay. And what about you, Philipp?
I think we chose the same path like Pablo. When we started back in 2010, there were no real systems that we could use for our specific use case available. I think for the first 2 years, we tried to heavily customize a cloud-based CRM system, but we were at the end of it, and then we used our learnings and build our own Java-based backend and front end with our own team. Our own team is, I think, 22 developers, plus we have a product team of 6 people, and then we have a BI team of 3 people. So in the area, it will be more or less 30 people dealing with that system. And it's front end and back end, and we also have a very sophisticated business intelligence service and team, which allows us on a artificial intelligence based algorithm to really use all our experience from 8 years litigation and case intake against airline to have a quite sophisticated prediction system and about the chance of success of future cases. So we can really, if we want, we could kind of fully automate all our procedures, and we're really getting more and more to steer our case flow by using our AI services, which we internally developed.
Okay.
And then, of course, we also have integrated with like standard tools, which are just commodity on marketing or email services and so on. But that's, yeah, I think that's just standard, normal.
Okay. Okay. Let's go into the other question we have prepared, which is, could you please describe your unique selling proposition?
Yeah, well, in our case, it's quite simple. It's click to claim. You can do everything from home and through your computer, and we're working on a success fee basis. And we have our values really clear and are based on transparency and the management of expectations from customers, so they know, when the trial date is, what's our commission going to be, how is the case going, etc. Just by getting into our website without needing to call us or visiting us.
Okay, so transparency would be like something very important for your company.
Yeah.
Okay. What
I
about you,
realize
Philipp?
there's. I'm sorry. I just realized that there's quite a lot of lack of transparency in traditional law firms. I don't know why. I get into many of the websites, and it's, how much you charge. It's impossible to know because they're not
Yeah.
used to mentioning. I don't know if it's the same in Germany.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think our USP is quite similar to what Pablo describes on a general basis, like compared to other services, like the traditional services. It's no win, no fee based, which is super important for most of the passenger, because like you have to know that in 50% of the cases, in air passenger cases, 261 cases, there is extraordinary circumstances. So if you would go to a lawyer and lose that case, you can end up with having invested 400 euros and finally ending up with a minus of 400 euros. So that is something that people don't want at small claims. This is a so-called rational disinterest. You didn't rather leave it than to invest to have a risk of financial loss. So I think it starts with this. Plus, it's a digital service. It's as easy as booking a flight to hire us. It's very clear what you have to pay. It's a contingency fee of 25% plus VAT. And then I think what makes us quite differentiates us from most of the competitors is that because we are the number one, because we are like the oldest player out there in the market, because we've litigated so many cases, and because we plugged in all these experience and know-how into our system, we believe that from any claim you will get, that you will give to us, we are the ones who will derive the most value out of it, like get the highest compensation, and most probably also we will also be the fastest ones, because like we build up a reputation which helps us when dealing with the airline. I mean, most of the airlines, we have amicable agreements, we're friendly with them, so that really helps the process, and that helps the consumers as well if they engage us with dealing with their claim.
Okay. So let me go to the next question. Sorry, I lost the paper here. So if you had to describe me the typical profile of a client, how would it be? Or maybe you have different segment of clients. Could you please describe how they are?
Philipp, you want to go?
No, maybe you can do it, because I realize that I have to put some light in this room. Maybe I'll just get some light and you'll continue with that.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Well, we have many different segment of clients. I mean, for example, in airlines, we have from the low-cost traveler to the business executive who's a frequent traveler, to the Latin American community, which travels once a year to the country, to families that travel together to celebrate something. It's really varied. If we talk about banking, then it's also the same. It's mainly couples, and it's they're usually under 35s or early 40s. If we're talking about tax claims, which we're doing against city halls, maybe it's older people with everything related to heritages, etc. It's really varied. I mean, there's 2 million people that can claim air passenger rights. There's 8 million people that can claim back their cost because they subscribe a mortgage with a bank. There's 5 million people that can claim the taxes back against their city halls when they sell a house. It's so wide that I mean, it's really wide. So yeah.
Okay. What about the profile of your company in different countries where you are, Philipp?
You have to repeat it. I just put on my headphones at that second.
No, I'm asking you about the profile of your clients in the different countries where you are located acting.
Well, look, I mean, as I said, it will be in the area of 1 million. So there's not it's quite a range, you know. I think like, and we are modeling all the different people, our clients, which is various personas, and one persona is of course the family with 2 kids going for summer holiday. Then it's like older people, but also like smart people who say, like younger smart people who could maybe do it alone, but they just think, you know, I don't want to spend much time with it. It's just the convenience that somebody takes care. I know this is a new service. It's how I want to live. I want digital access to services, and it just takes me 2 minutes, and this is what I enjoy. Yeah, it's quite diverse, I would say. So you couldn't say it's quite like the people that are flying, business travelers as well. So I can't really pinpoint to a specific persona, which is like the typical client.
Okay, so that means that from the marketing point of view, you are obliged to do very different kind of campaigns, and your targets are really different. That makes it complicated, no?
I think we shoot. I don't know the English word, but we rather shoot in every direction than try to really focus on one persona, because there is not this one persona which you can tailor your marketing to. It's people. Everybody is flying, and everybody who's flying is our potential customer, and everybody who's our potential customer most probably will like our service or Pablo's service, because they're just very good and convenient.
Okay. Okay, so let's go into the next question. I think you kind of answered it. I am going to read it anyway, but we probably already answered. How does the European legal system respond to the challenges of today's citizens? And are there precise fields that need big legal changes? And if so, please specify.
I don't think. I think what European legislators do start to understand that there's a deficiency. Or let me start a different way. They do understand that it's different of having putting certain rights, consumer rights, citizens' rights on paper, and enforcing them, particularly if it's a situation where a rather unempowered consumer wants to enforce against a quite professional corporate or corporate organization. As the so-called repeat players, because the consumer is doing it once in his lifetime, whereas corporations who have a maybe legal risk, they have professional in-house legal system, they have law firm, and they do this every day, so they're repeat players. So this is what I think European policymakers are more and more understanding, that there is an imbalance, and that you not only have to take care about putting certain rights on paper, like putting them in making laws, but also taking more care about how these rights can be efficiently enforced. And this is why they introduced, for instance, the ADR regulation and other regulations. But I think nobody really has looked into the specifics of small claims enforcement. And I think this is something which has to happen, particularly, I think there's no better example to see and analyze the deficiencies than if you really deep dive into the air passenger rights enforcement, because you have so many cases and you really can compare the different legal systems, Germany against Spain, for instance, and see why are things working much better in Germany or Austria than in Spain or even in France, and what are the problems. And you can really go into a million number of cases and really see the differences and see where they come from. And this, I think, it's a chance, and if people on the European level are really interested to make the systems work and to have efficient consumer protection, then they should really come to us and ask us for our data and ask us for our opinion. And I hope that this will happen. And maybe ELTA can facilitate this as well. This would be great, because I think it's important.
Yeah, I can tell you that the board of ELTA has been discussing very often where can we really add value, and we are aware that in benchmarking we can be very good because we have representatives in any European country, and we are thinking now of maybe doing some research on artificial intelligence. By why not doing some research on the protection of consumer rights? I think it's an excellent idea, and maybe we can propose this to the coming board meeting and launch something European broad to compare and find good practices. I take note of it. So, Pablo, do you want to add something on this?
No, I fully agree to what Philipp stated. I mean, and we have a lot of data to be shared, so we're happy to share everyone aware of what's going on. I in the Spanish case, I would like to say that the best piece of news is that we have a European Court of Justice who is constantly correcting our Supreme Court. so just say thank you to them from here, because they are the main protectors of consumer rights.
It's true, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I think one more thing that I want to add is that we realize, and I'm sure Pablo will realize even more, that the national, like from the national member countries, like the civil procedure that has been enacted is not made for digital procedures. It's really made for the old traditional way, where a lawyer comes personally to court, you have hearing, it takes very long, it's not time boxed, it's not fast, it's analog, and sometimes you can really also kind of use certain rights to prevent access to your rights. Honors of proof, for instance, I think in Spain, for certain things that you really was on the plane and these things, or that the flight was really delayed. So I think it would make sense to modernize the civil procedure and kind of modernize to a more digital world, but also litigation is triggered in a more digital way, or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you have any like concrete demand for the European legislator or for your own country legislator?
Actually, many.
Okay, let me take note of
No,
that.
but I fully agree with Philip that we need to harmonize what how consumer rights are protected in each country. So, for example, he was stating in Germany, it's the airline that has to prove that you didn't take the flight. In Spain, sometimes it's not enough with the plane ticket, and you need to keep the boarding pass. You know why? We're talking about the same region, and there's a list of passengers of the airlines, and in Spain, there's some things which are common sense. For example, there's now we can present things digitally, lawsuits digitally, but we need to face 7 different softwares to do this, each one of a different region, just because we are a country of nations, or call it what you want, but it's at the end, it's just wasting public money, and it doesn't make any sense. None of them work properly, and there's a clear lack of focus in the administration on how to deal with this. Yeah, and I would also add for the Spanish arena that at least the Supreme Court should be more careful when stating the rulings and take into account what the European Court of Justice is saying and what they know they're going to say sometimes, because what this is provoking is just a collapse in the Spanish courts.
Mhm. Okay, what about you, Philip? Do you have any petitions for the legislator?
Well, I think in generally it would be good if you have a like for legal tech companies like we have, that you have a kind of a European law, maybe to provide a safe harbor for European-wide compliance for legal tech company themselves, how we operate, no win, no fee. And I think Pablo mentioned this thing that some things do work differently in Spain than they work in Germany, and that is maybe that we should have a system where the price for where there is a clear price for breach of consumer laws. Like that could be a penalty if you in the end. And I see this is a problem in Spain. I see this is a problem in France, and I think we should correct this, because this is the only way how we will reach a higher level of compliance and a higher level of consumer rights, if it's not a kind of, if there's not a positive business case in breaching, consequently strategically breaching passenger rights or consumer rights.
Yeah,
and that is something where I think European Union has to look in, and I think the keyword is effet utile. So if you don't have this, then European laws will not be effective throughout Europe.
Okay. Okay. So my last question, it's already answered, because you already explained us that you, Pablo, are acting only at the national level, whilst you, Philippe, are acting at the international level. But maybe you could tell us, Philippe, what are the difference in markets and in complication in these different countries where you are? Which is the most difficult country for your business? Which is being the easiest? Can you tell us about? And Pablo, if you are looking at other countries or you have experience and you want to share your views on that, you are also welcome to do it.
now here I have to rely on Philip. His experience is way better than mine.
Well, as a general thumb rule, and to make it very easy, I think Austria is very good. Germany is good. Sweden is good. What else? I think Spain, France, Italy are not so good. So it's kind of, from north to south, we believe that the systems are working more efficiently in the north than in the south, and you can see that. And the UK is in between. The UK is quite okay, but it's in between. So, and you can see this how fast court are deciding. If you bring a court to if you bring a case to the court, you can see how digitized or how digital the access to the legal system is. You can see this often in terms of whether you have a clearly established loser pays principle, whether you can predict if you win a case that you can recollect or that the airline has to reimburse you for the costs. As a general rule, this is it. And then there's Netherlands and Belgium. It's somewhere in between I think France and the UK.
Okay. Okay, so it's very interesting. There is a north and south case here.
Yeah.
Good to know, and maybe we should try to abolish that differences. No, they are completely unfair. If we are Europeans, we should have the same access to justice and the same rights guarantee.
And the worst is Ireland. And one very quite public, prominent airline is based there. And they've introduced a clause that you can only sue them in Ireland.
Just because.
Have you heard of this airline?
Yeah, rings a bell.
Yes, we know which one you are talking about. Okay, let me ask you one more question. So you are fighting for the rights of consumers, but are consumers always happy with your services? And how difficult is it being to cope with the needs and wishes of consumers? How do they look at you? Are they happy with you?
Pablo?
Yeah, well, I would say that in general terms, yes, they are. I mean, and they are quite good. For example, there's a study from the European Commission, which it has a few years now, but it stated that 2% of people that claim on their own on airline claims get a result. We over 98%, as I mentioned before. So, at the end, they see us as we're solving that they wouldn't do on their own because they don't know how to, and in case they had to, they would waste a lot of time. So the perception it's really good, and at the end they clearly see the value. We are getting some big numbers now on cross-selling on people that are using our claiming services for more than one product or repeating, for example, an airline claim, and without doing any offline strong advertising. Now we have over 200,000 clients, and that speaks itself. I mean there's a clear need in the market for this kind of service, because otherwise they just get lost in phone calls and lack of responses from big companies, etc. Yeah.
Philipp, and your clients?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, all people that get the money, that get compensation are generally very, very happy, and you can see this. We are measuring our so-called net promoter score on many touch points, and that it's very competitive. I wouldn't say it's as high as Amazon, but it's close. And the people, and it's kind of within the nature of the system that to do not get some money, and that is then due to really force majeure, extraordinary circumstances. They are not as happy as the ones who getting the money. But on average, it's, as Pablo said, the people, even if we don't enforce a claim for them, they are happy because we're transparent. We're explaining what we're doing. We're updating them. They see that we fight for their rights, and that we really go the extra mile, and that we take care as an older brother and it's not about money, because they realize that only if we are successful, only if we are successful for them, we will also make or earn our fees. So and then it's sometimes a challenge, and I think we can still get better there. For instance, like jurisdictions, as we described, more south, like Italy, Spain, or France, and where we have to litigate, that it can take 700 days, as Pablo explained, and then you really have to explain them in a lot of emails why it's taking so long, because it's out of our control. It's the legal system, and we have to rely on an efficient system. So it's quite a burden for us to explain them that basically it's not our fault that it takes long, but it's the system that is not working as efficiently as it could. So that's sometimes a challenge, but I think we're getting there by really getting better templates, better data, and so in general, I think yeah, that's the future in small claims consumer law enforcement, what we're doing, and I think what we can see is that this is really that this thing spreads into many more areas, and that there's really a trend on these legal tech services. Yeah, so I think that's kind of the proof that we must somehow do a good job.
Okay.
That we're inspiring others. Yeah.
Okay, it's very interesting. So you are clearly in a business which is risky, because you are claiming for people who claim. So these people are normally people with high standards to give them satisfaction, and that makes it additionally difficult. So you not only have to fight against a system that is not helping, but also you have to be very careful with your own clients' demand. So for me, these are the questions that we had prepared for you. I don't know if you want to add something to this, or we give the audience the right to ask already.
For me, it's okay to go with the audience.
Yes? Okay, Philipp. Yes? Okay, let's go for the audience. Julia, do we have any questions from the audience?
No, not yet. Any questions? Not yet. I will see. So there, Carlo Mamo, he raised his hand.
Okay.
So maybe, Carlo, you could type in your question into the chat or question section. Or we could also try to give you the speaking rights if you want to. So let's see if he's typing something. No question yet. So I think maybe Carlo's question maybe already got answered.
No questions.
So I think there is a question.
Okay.
It just came in. So Carlo said, sorry, he found the chat. He will write one. And Dag, I don't know how to pronounce it correctly. What kind of methodology do you use when developing your consumer services?
Agile methodologies. Basically, we have the client in the center of everything, and we like to come out with MVPs and test their feedback and iterate from there the solution. Yeah.
Yeah. Lean, agile, design thinking.
Yeah.
Okay. So Carlo
if nobody else has a question, I have a question for you too.
Yeah,
okay.
I think you can go with your question, yes. And Carlo just wrote his question. We can do it right after that.
Okay, so one of the challenges that the legal industry has in order to make consumer happier is language use. How do we communicate the legal issues? In some countries like the UK and the States, there have been campaigns promoted by the civil society in order to induce lawyers to speak clearly, legalese, legal, plain language. You in your companies, do you have a policy regarding not only transparency or yes, transparency, understanding clear language and simple language as part of the transparency policy? And if so, if you have this kind of policy, how do you implement it in practice? What kind of training do you give lawyers, or what kind of, let's say, control of what is written do you do, etc.?
I think we have some values. I think maybe you can see some here in my back, and one is clearly give our customers access to justice. And part of this rule of value is that access means also that they can understand what we tell them. And this is, I think, what we learned, that we're really trying to translate any legal process, any legal issue, any legal request, any legal information into a language that he can understand, being a non-lawyer with no legal background. And I think our marketing team is very helpful there, because they, like our legal team, but also our marketing team, our communication team, they really have the they have the perspective of the consumers, of our clients in mind, and every piece of communication goes through that quality gate, and they are checking whether our standard customer can understand this, and it's important for us, and we're really putting a lot of emphasis into this.
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
It's basically the same thing for us. We publish a lot of things in our blog. It's one of the main sources of traffic for us, and we always put a lot of effort in. I had a teacher who used to say, "Don't put anything into a website that your grandma wouldn't understand," and it's an extreme example, but it actually works quite well. And actually, there's a ranking in Spain from media called Lawyer Press, and we, for the first time in last July, we were they call us law firm. I don't consider ourselves as a law firm. We're a technology company that provide legal services, but we were the first ones in the digital reputation ranking they had. And if you look at the ones who were coming behind, it's really traditional law firms with a lot of business background. And I guess it's because we're making legal content accessible to everyone, and we're trying to democratize justice and to let everyone have access to justice whenever they need it, as Philip was mentioning.
Okay. Any more questions, Julia?
There's one more question. I will read it out. It comes in 4 messages. So the first one is, do you think new products from insurances like AXA, automated claims for flight delay, is a risk for your business in the long term? And one addition to this, the service I'm talking about is Vison from AXA Insurance, and is blockchain based, and their business proposition is your flight is 2 hours late, get your money without claiming.
Now, I mean, like, insurance in general is something which is different, because in kind of prior to your flight, you have to book that service, you have to pay AXA for Vison, and it has basically nothing to do with what we do, basically enforcing consumer rights. It's an insurance, and this will never be, this can never substitute the consumer rights, because there you basically, by paying your insurance premium, pay for what they pay out later, whereas what we do is there's a European law which we enforce, and the airline pays this. So whereas for us, with our service, it's free, it's no fee. You have to book the airline fee, and they make a very you have to subscribe to the insurance. Blockchain itself, I think, is a quite nice technology, and we could use it for some use cases. But yeah, I don't think that this is in any way a threat to our business.
Yeah, I fully agree. Fully agree. Yeah.
Okay. So if
Okay,
there are no more
further
questions,
no, there aren't. Yeah.
there aren't. Okay.
No,
so
there aren't.
okay, thank you, Julia, then for helping us with the questions. And Pablo, Philipp, Pablo, thank you so very much for being with us today. We have been recording this. We will have a video. We will send it to you, and we will make it available to all ELTA members. If any of the people who are listening to us are still not members of ELTA, we invite you to join. We are preparing a very, very nice agenda of activities for next year. Philipp, Pablo, please join us and help us, and we will try to help you as well. I promise you that this idea that you gave us, how to protect consumer rights and how are they at the moment protected in the different countries, if we can find a very concrete thing to do with ELTA members, we will help you. So thank you to everybody, and have a very, very nice evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye, Pablo.